Fight Mike here. Today we're going to be going through the UFC 317 card that just took place, headlined by Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira. Starting off with the early prelim opener, we got Renato Moicano versus Alvin Hines. This was a really good fight. I enjoyed this one a lot. Usually heavyweight fights aren't as fun. They're usually a couple of minutes per round of downtime. But this was a good fight. I think Alvin Hines looked pretty good. He was aura farming early. He was breaking the third wall, staring into the camera. And he looks pretty good out there. He looks like someone's dad. He looks a little bit too aged to be in the UFC at this point. But I think he'll have some fun fights outside the rankings. And talking about the actual fight, it was clear early that Renato was a bit ahead and a bit more of a clean striker. And you could see after round one, Hines' face was literally so busted up. It was literally one jab and one lead hook. And Alvin Hines' eye was swollen. His nose was broken. I just think that Renato Moicano was able to catch Alvin Hines coming in, and that's how he was able to hurt him most of the time. Because he was a lot taller and longer than Alvin, he was able to keep Alvin at the end of his punches, and Alvin doesn't really feint too much. He leaps in, so if Renato threw out like a lead hook or a check hook, like anything like that, he was more able to just tag Alvin quite regularly throughout the fight. He was fading back well. The difference in footwork was massive. Alvin was a lot more ploddy of a guy, and Renato was able just to sort of keep him at range and keep him at bay, making sure that none of the shots were actually going to hit him really clean. So he did really well with his footwork, Renato Moicano did. And the takedown defense for Moicano looked really good. Alvin was shooting throughout the entire fight, looking to take it down. I think, yes, there's 1 out of 10 takedowns, which is pretty good. But I also think that Hines is just not the most accurate striker. At one point, he was landing at a 17% clip. And although he's got decent cardio at heavyweight, I don't know if he's got the skills and like the ability to beat some of these Renato Moicano types. So I don't even think Renato's like amazing. I don't think he's ranked level in the heavyweight division. I think Moicano started to slow down in that third round. He looks like he threw quite a few strikes in those first two, so it's sort of understandable that he was slowing down. But I think that the body work from Alvin Hines started to work. He was doing a lot of the body straight a lot. And I think that Renato Moicano could have done a lot better throughout the fight, because in the third round, he was getting off a lot of leg kicks, and it seemed like he didn't try them for the first 2 rounds. He was sort of headhunting for the entire fight. But overall, it was a good performance from both. I'm excited to see what Alvin Hines does in the unranked part of the heavyweight division, and Renato Moicano will be able to have some good matchups in the future. Moving on to the next fight, we had the biggest favorite on the card. We have Niko Price versus Jacoby Smith. Jacoby Smith came out like a bat out of hell. He rocked Niko instantly, got the takedown, worked some ground and pound. But then it got to like 3 minutes into the round, and then the ground and pound really slowed down. He was really sweaty. And Niko was able to threaten a couple of things off his back. He ended up getting up. And once he got up, Jacoby Smith looked spent. Like, we all knew he was a really good prospect. He's got all the wrestling pedigree. But I think even I've overrated him so much. Like, he looked so gassed in that round there. But Niko looked pretty good in the first round. Once they got back up, he was landing a couple of shots. He got hurt towards the end of the round again. And then round 2, he was both of them were looking. I'm not going to just say Jacoby Smith looked slow. Niko Price also looked slow in the second round. They were literally wailing shots from their hips. At one point, Jacoby Smith started walking away in the second round, and Mark Smith had to tell him to keep moving. So this is really bad signs for this guy's cardio, for someone who's so explosive, because he blew his load in only like a minute and a half. So not a good look at all for Jacoby Smith on this one. And both these guys look so exhausted in that second round. But Jacoby was able to get the takedown in the second round. He kept him in full guard for a while, but Niko just kept half-heartedly rolling and trying to improve position, but he didn't have enough energy to complete the rollover and actually end up on top. And he ended up rolling into a position where he was on his knees, and Jacoby got his back, and then the rest is history. He got him by a rear naked choke in the second round. Pretty good win for Jacoby Smith, but we expected a lot more from him, so I hope he takes a few months off, works on that gas tank, and comes back, because he could still be a very good prospect. But that was a worrying performance, especially against a guy who got finished in 30 seconds by Robbie Lawler. So we'll see what's in stock for Jacoby Smith in the future. Moving on, we've got Terrence McKinney versus Vyacheslav Borshev. I thought that Borshev was going to beat Terence McKinney. I've made a habit of picking Terence before this point, and I've decided that I'll never pick him again until after this fight, because Terence McKinney looked fantastic. He always had the strength and grappling advantage in this one, but I thought that I always say his name wrong. Yeah, Borshev was able to I thought he was going to be able to defend the grappling. I didn't think that the strength difference was going to be that dramatic between Terence McKinney and Borshev, but I knew, like, in the first ZM fight, he looked really good on the ground. This is Terence McKinney, but his fight IQ is really not trustworthy, so I didn't expect that he would actually use his grappling throughout the fight. So I'm really surprised that he instantly went for the takedown. I'm happy he went for the takedown. It shows, like, an improvement in his game. He got I think it was an anaconda choke to begin, and then he moved to a DAS, and then changed it to a guillotine. And it was really, really tight. He was able to get him in it was a minute that he was able to get Borshev out there. So it was a really impressive performance. He was just able to bully and outmuscle Borshev. I thought Borshev would have a little bit more for him, but I think Terence is actually making a few steps into the right direction. Because his main problem was never his skill. He's always been a really skilled fighter, but his fight IQ's always been absolutely horrendous. But we've seen in his last 2 bouts, he's looked a lot smarter in them. So maybe we're getting a new prime out of Terence McKinney. Maybe it's the Terence McKinney title run. So let's hopefully get excited for that one. Moving on to the next fight, we've got Viviane Araujo. I always call it Araujo, but it's completely not how you call it. And then versus Tracy Cortez. I thought that this fight was going to go either way. I thought it was going to be one of them would end up getting the grappling down. Both of them have quite suspect takedown defense, but Cortez just had the better ability to shoot. I think she's been working a bit with Henry Cejudo, so I think that this might have helped her when getting Viviane Araujo down. And the thing is that I think 4 years ago, Araujo wins this one. She didn't look too quick. Maybe I'm just coping because I picked her, but she used to look a little bit more strong and a bit more dominant. And the thing is about Tracy, she's always had decent wrestling, but she's never looked like the strongest person. Maybe she's gotten stronger since her fight against Rose Namajunas, but I just thought that Araujo used to be a little bit stronger than her. But in this fight, she was just getting controlled the entire time. Positionally, she was getting outdone by Tracy Cortez. Tracy Cortez was also going forward a lot more, so she was landing at a much higher clip and much more. She was throwing more. She was just doing more throughout the fight. And Araujo was just not able to keep up with it. So I'm looking forward to what's coming next. I don't know who they're going to match up Tracy Cortez with, but a little jump up the rankings would be nice. So moving on to the next fight, we had a beautiful KO 26 seconds in from Jose Delgado versus Haider Emil. I saw a fair few people picking Haider Emil, and I know that everyone describes Haider as like an amazing marauder, but he is sort of, I won't say one-dimensional, but his defense is very one-dimensional. He always comes forward, never with any head movement. He doesn't take his head off center line when punching either. And the thing is that he was fighting Jose Delgado, who some people were also calling him a marauder. He's very much not a marauder. He's got a good chin, but he's a very slick striker. And I know people were comparing William Gomez as a slick striker that Haider Emil was able to beat, but William Gomez has no power. He doesn't have the one-shot knockout power as Jose Delgado. And Jose Delgado is much taller, much rangier, a much more dangerous striker. And as they first started the fight, Haider Emil was marauding as usual, coming forward, chin first, on a silver platter, throwing some big shots, looking to KO Jose, but Jose looked really sharp. His movement was really elusive. He wasn't getting caught up with Haider Emil, and Haider's just too straight of a fighter. He is too directly at you, and it's just not going to work out for him. He's 35 years old. The chin wasn't going to hold up forever, and I thought he was going to get a late TKO in this one, but impressive that Delgado was able to get him out of there early. So it's interesting. I'm going to be interested to see who they match him up with next. Moving on, we've got Jack Hermanson versus Gregory Rodriguez. Another first round finish. This was much more brutal, though. This was a bit hard to watch. I like Jack Hermanson a lot, and Gregory Rodriguez was just a bad stylistic matchup for Jack. I knew that Jack was going to have a lot of trouble with him. I thought that he would be able to withstand the power, but I thought that there was a good chance that Rodriguez would get him out of there in the first round. And early in the round, Jack was looking pretty good. His defense looked a little slick. And Gregory was conserving his energy. He looked much better than he did in the Cannonier fight. And he wasn't doing as many explosive movements constantly. But wherein lied the problem was that Jack Hermansson was moving on the back foot way too much. He was countering with the lead hook and it was never hitting. And all of his counter shots, to be honest, were missing by quite a large margin. And he was swatting a lot at all of the punches that Gregory Rodriguez was throwing. One thing about Rodriguez's game is that his head movement was looking much improved. He seemed to be throwing a lot more with his head off center line. He didn't do that a lot during the Jared Cannonier fight, and that ended up catching him in the third round of their fight. So it's nice to see him make some good improvements in there. And he's massive, so it's not like a lot of these guys, like, if they've got one-shot knockout power, they're not usually the whole package. But Gregory Rodriguez is this huge, light heavyweight size guy with one-shot knockout power, and he's got wrestling to go with it. So even a guy like Jack Hermansson didn't want to take him down because he knew how good Gregory is on the ground. So I think Jack Hermansson swatting at the punches, and he was going for that lead hook constantly, and Gregory sort of just threw like an off-timing lead hook as Jack Hermansson threw his swatting hook to sort of check whatever punch Gregory was throwing. And it just caught Jack Hermansson right on the chin with a brutal follow-up shot after there. Controversial opinion, I think that Herb Dean's time in the UFC might be done. I think he's lost a little bit of that pep in his step. I saw as he was running over to get to that finish, he was hopping a little bit, like, he doesn't look that fast anymore. And I know he's just a ref, he's not a fighter, but like, if we're putting these fighters' lives in their hands, we need to have these refs being as like good of a mental condition as the fighters. We can't have these fighters taking 2-3 extra shots. Even this one was one, but it was really meaty and it was a bad shot to take. So I think that Herb Dean's time is up. I think we need to get some new blood into the referees so we can have some of these less late stoppages. But overall, it was a brutal finish from Gregory Rodriguez. Super impressed with his performance. Moving on, we've got Peyton Talbot versus Felipe Lima. Talbot looks so much better this time out. I thought people were sort of underrating Talbot's chances in this fight. I did pick Felipe Lima. I thought he was going to slightly outdo him for a decision. But Peyton Talbot was able to sort of out-control him and out-grapple him in most of those positions. And he was able to just win those last 2 rounds with good defense and positional control. The biggest difference in this fight was not the skill, it was just in the fight IQ. I think Talbot's the more veteran fighter. He had his loss against Raoni Barcelos last time out, so I think he's really improving his mental side of the game. And I just think we saw too much of a rushed Felipe Lima, and I did see shades of this in his last performances, especially in the Muhammad Naimov fight. He was rushing a few positions in that. And the thing is that Felipe Lima was doing really well on the feet throughout both round 2 and 3, but he would just keep shooting because he just didn't have the IQ in his game to make the adjustments. Whereas Talbot, he didn't make the adjustments against Raoni Barcelos, but that he's worked on that in his game, and you could see throughout this fight, he made the adjustment that he knew he was not only able to defend all the takedowns, but he knew he was actually a stronger fighter and a better wrestler than Felipe Lima. So it's been a really impressive performance for Peyton Talbot this time out. And I think that Felipe Lima's problem in this one was that he was just constantly rushing the positions. He would be striking well and he would land 1 or 2 good shots, and then the very next exchange he'd be shooting, and it became predictable for Talbot to know, okay, if he lands on me once or twice, he'll think I'll get taken down. Because that's what happened in the Raoni Barcelos fight. So he fixed his issues, and I think that Felipe Lima was just not able to adjust on the fly as well as he should have been able to. And the thing is that Peyton Talbot has really somehow worked on his wrestling throughout the last 7 months or 6 months since his fight in January. And it's become really impressive. Like, his trust in his takedown defense, and when he did get taken down, his trust that he would be able to get back up, it looked much different than that Raoni Barcelos fight. It almost looked like he'd had 3 fights in between where he'd been wrestled the entire time. So really impressive. He looked like he'd made leaps and bounds of improvement in his wrestling. And I don't want to hear anyone saying Felipe Lima is a fraud. He's got a bit to work on. I just think that Talbot was a lot cleaner. I think the version of Talbot that fought Raoni Barcelos would have been a war against this version of Felipe Lima. And I think Felipe Lima could have won that fight, but Talbot was able to make the good adjustments. And I just think Felipe Lima, he needs to slow down a little bit and he'll be able to win these fights. Moving on, we've got Beniel Dariush versus Renato Moicano. I was a bit sad about this. I was hoping that Renato would look really good just for the health of the lightweight division. I think that Beniel being this old and not in his prime means that it's just not his height for that division, and it looks worse for lightweight. Because we've always seen lightweight as the apex division, but this fight, I don't think it was the apex of the apex division. Like it showed that we're sort of evolving in like welterweight and bantamweight and all of these other weight classes. I don't think that lightweight's the best one anymore. Because in this fight, so early on, striking exchanges were quite scrappy. It looked like Renato was winning most of the exchanges, and this is all in round one. There was a couple of clinches, and Renato knocks him down late in round one. It looked like it was going to be game over when round two started, but Beniel started off the round really well, pushed the attack straight away, landed a couple of good shots, and then went for the takedown, getting Renato down. And I feel like the second round was really important in this fight, because not only did Beniel put the confidence back in his head that, okay, I can take this guy down and hold him down, but it gave Renato the hesitation of, I don't want to throw because you'll take me down. And I think that this really gassed out Renato Moicano. If you watched Renato in the second and third round, he looked dead. Especially in the third, it looked like he was able to win the striking exchanges in the third round, but he had nothing left due to all the wrestling in that second. There was about 2 minutes where Beniel Dariush was hooking his leg on the cage, and Renato was in that position where he had one knee down and he was sort of in a stagnant position against the cage. And Beniel Dariush started using all of his weight. Like, he literally put one of his legs up onto the cage and had the other one floating in the air so that he had his entire weight on Renato Moicano. Really smart work there. He tired out Renato in that minute or two of grappling there. And then in the third round, he was just able to, again, positionally out-grapple Moicano, and then Moicano was just too tired and too worried about the grappling to throw anything back of value. So, really good win from Beniel Dariush. And I also think the bodywork and the leg kicks really helped to drain Renato Moicano's power and cardio for that third round. And to be honest, coming into it, I thought Dariush was always going to win the grappling exchanges, but I just thought that Renato would be able to have more left in those second and third rounds and just be able to sort of inch out one of those rounds with the striking. But sadly, it couldn't happen, and we've got Beniel Dariush back in the winning column at 39 years old. Joking, he's like 37 or 36 years old. But I'm a little bit salty about this one. I don't know if you can tell, but let's move on to the next fight. We have easily the fight of the night. We have Brandon Royval versus Joshua Van. This is probably going to go down as one of the fights of the year, if not fight of the year. If you can see the stats on the screen, it's 216 strikes for Royval and 209 for Joshua Van. That is crazy numbers. I bet that that's some sort of record in a 3-round fight. And the boxing exchanges were absolutely amazing. Everyone in the room that I was watching in was absolutely erupting throughout the entirety of the fight. But on a round-by-round basis, first round was really close. Thought the start of the first round, Royval looked really good. He was landing some good leg kicks and a laser of a jab. Halfway through the round, Joshua Van was starting to time Royval pretty consistently with the shots over the top of Royval's straight shots. And Royval was throwing the two whilst taking his head off center line, but that was enabling Joshua Van to just throw it straight where he was trying to aim it, and he was just catching Royval constantly in those first round. And Royval, like halfway through the round, 3/4 of the way, started going more to his at-range attacks, throwing more jabs, teep kicks, body kicks, and he was trying to keep out of the boxing exchanges with Van, as it was quite obvious that Van was much faster in the boxing, and he was much more powerful. He was putting a lot more on his shots than Brandon Royval was. But round two, they were very, very close. They were exchanging back and forth, and it was just whoever was going forward was able to land the shots. But I will say Joshua Van was the only one landing any counter shots. Brandon Royval was not able to time Joshua Van as he was coming in. But round 3 started, and Brandon Royval and Joshua Van were just scrapping it out, duking it out for the first 3.5 minutes. It was such a toss-up. They were both trading shots. Royval with more of the volume, and Van with the shots that were snapping back Royval's face. And it just looked really impressive. And then towards the end of the round, I think Royval probably knew he was down and he needed to make a big moment to sort of snag that third round, because the second round was very close, probably went to Royval on activity. But then third round, Royval was looking really good, but he was just slightly behind, and he just went for it for the last minute, and I completely respect that. He was just going for Van. He was throwing down. He was not taking a back step. And then in the last 5 seconds, Joshua Van just cleaved him, knocking him down, almost finishing him. It actually looks like how Cameron Simon fell after Malcolm Wellmaker knocked him out the other week. So, such an impressive performance from Joshua Van. I loved the fight. It was easily one of the best fights I've ever seen, because I'm a stickler for the boxing. I love to watch it. So, this was incredible of a fight. But I think the big difference in this one was that Royval does not sit down on his shots much at all. And it sort of looks like what Sandhagen was back in the day when he was moving around on the back foot a lot, where he sort of got pillow-fisted because he could never sit down on his shots. And with someone with good defense and head movement like Van, he was just able to know that he could eat all the shots and hit the shots that would hurt Royval. And it was just able to win him the fight. Royval, I think, should have been mixing in a bit more of his full MMA game, maybe shooting some takedowns just to give Joshua Van the look, just because Van's striking is just so clean compared to anyone that Royval has been able to fight. So I think that he should have gone for some takedowns, gone for some head kicks. I thought that was open throughout the fight, and maybe some spinning attacks could have worked, but may not have mattered at all because Joshua Van just looked so locked in. It was his night tonight. Moving on, we've got Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Kara-France. As soon as the fight started and I saw that Pantoja just bulldozed Kai Kara-France, I literally knew he was going to win. Pantoja looks like he did not care for the power of Kai Kara. I know throughout the build-up he was talking about how he's treating him like he's Mike Tyson, but as soon as he got into the cage, he just had no regard for any of Kai Kara-France's power. And he was just looking to walk through the shots, make sure he landed his own, and get to the takedown. That was his ultimate plan in this. We all knew he was going to be shooting a lot. And he actually bullied Kai Kara-France to the fence and to the takedowns. Like, for a guy like Kai Kara, who's got such elite takedown defense, I was so impressed with how Pantoja was able to get him to the ground and instantly progress to the back. First round, Kai Kara-France did good defense on the bottom, but he was held down the entire round. Round 2 was a closer round, but Kai Kara-France just looked completely frozen. Completely. He was ducking a lot, and then the kicks started coming when he was ducking. And then it just was all downhill. He was not able to land much on Pantoja. Pantoja was able to push him backwards. And it just made Kai Kara-France throw nothing with any sort of intent. And I'll tell you what, this is what really annoyed me, is at the end of round 2, when Kai Kara-France had done nothing the entire round and Pantoja had been kicking his body, had been attempting the takedowns, he was breaking him. You could watch him break him. And the commentary team are talking about how tired Pantoja is. Like, bro, he was nasal breathing between the second and third rounds. Like, I'm struggling to see where he's tired. And Kai Kara-France is out here throwing one strike every minute. Yet Pantoja, the one who threw like 20 strikes in the round and didn't look tired at all, was the tired one. Like, it just made no sense. It was like they were sort of coping to give Pantoja any sort of doubt throughout the fight. They should have been talking how much of a masterclass that Pantoja was putting on him. Round 3 started and he was able to get him down again. And Kai Kara-France, you could see, especially in this round, he was not sitting down on a single shot. There was not a shot that was thrown with the intent to knock out Alexandre Pantoja. So he was able to get him down again, able to jump on the back and neutralize him with that beautiful rear naked choke. And it was such a good finish. But what was even cooler, he just jumped on the cage, aura farming, staring out to the crowd, did not smile once. Even through the interview with Joe Rogan and after the interviews chatting with Joshua Van, bro did not smile. He was staring Joshua Van down. I'm so hyped for that matchup. But overall, it was a really good performance from Pantoja. I'm super impressed with the title reign that he's putting together now. If you can beat Joshua Van, then oh my god, we have got another generational talent on our hands. And I'm sorry for not respecting Pantoja enough in the past, because he is becoming one of the favorites. Moving on to the one that we all want to talk about, the best performance of the night, or one of maybe arguably the best performance of the night. We've got Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. This fight was everything that it lived up to be. Round 1, brutal KO for Ilia Topuria. It looks like vintage Oliveira, at least game plan wise, instantly when the fight started. He was pushing forward. He was throwing some hard shots at Ilia. Ilia was also responding with some hard shots. He was really looking to cleave Charles' head off. But I also thought that Topuria was going to be more defensive to start the fight, but that was completely not the case. And Charles was really going for it in the striking. He was throwing a bunch of knees. He was going for the clinch. And 30 seconds in, he got him pressed up against the cage, looked for a takedown. But Ilia Topuria was just able to pull him to the floor almost with ease. He looked a lot stronger than Charles Oliveira. He was able to pass guard instantly, got to a crucifixed position, and then went back to side control. But from that position, I can't remember what exact role that Charles did, but he got to a leg lock sort of position, and he was doing pretty well to get to that. And Topuria was having to defend that for a good 30 seconds. In the moment, oh my god, I was like, oh my god, this leg lock is in. I was going full Joe Rogan from 2009, just screaming in the study, thinking, oh my god, that's in. It's in. But it was not in, obviously. But I thought, far out, no way this is how the story ends for Topuria, that he gets ended with a leg lock. But obviously it's not the case. He's got really good wrestling background. He's got a really good jiu-jitsu background. So Topuria was able to get out of it in about 40 seconds. And then after getting up, Oliveira got back up after a couple of kicks to the calf, and then threw a naked uppercut, and then got caught with a jab to the body in the next exchange. And then the very next exchange after that, Topuria and Oliveira both go for a right hand at the exact same time. Topuria caught him right on the chin, and then that one shot, as Topuria and Oliveira were throwing their right hands, that one shot completely flatline KO'd Charles Oliveira. And then the follow-up shot of beauty with a beautiful left hook landed as Charles was falling, already knocked out, and that just took the cake. 2 follow-up shots, and it was all over. It was such an incredible performance. And it was just incredible that they both went for the same shot. And Topuria was just so much more precise that he was able to put Charles Oliveira out. We have never seen Charles put out cold like that. And honestly, it looks like Topuria's power has translated even more to the lightweight division, because we didn't see Max Holloway or Volk get KO'd from the first big shot that landed. The first. I would almost argue that was similar to the right hand that started the finishing sequence of the Holloway KO. I would say it's a similar right hand to that, but with even less power. You could see more rotation on that right hand he hit Holloway. This one was a lot more tight, and it was just the placing of that. And I just think that the weight, not weight cutting anymore, he's got some extra weight on him, and he's still fast. He's just got this next level power now at lightweight, and it just put Charles to sleep. Oh my gosh. After it, I was literally just I had to take 3 minutes to recover. My brain was just spinning after it. It was such an incredible knockout. I think that Ilia Topuria is everyone who could come across him's worst matchup. Arman Sarukian's worst matchup. Paddy Pimblett's getting KO'd flat. Islam Makhachev is probably also getting KO'd flat if he comes down to lightweight. He's looking incredible. I could see him being a new game changer even. I might be just glazing him beyond belief, but he punches like a real boxer, and we're seeing that more with JDM, with Joshua Van, with these guys that aren't throwing punches like an MMA fighter anymore. They're throwing punches with proper leverage like a boxer. So this was the performance that I think will push a lot of people to punching a lot more like Topuria, because people can punch like that. It's just the leverage difference that he's using comparatively to the rest of the divisions. And one thing before I dip out of this breakdown, I thought that Oliveira looked so drawn in the fight. And as he was walking out, I was telling all of the people that I was with, first round KO, 100%. He looks like so drawn. Maybe I'm wrong, though. Maybe I'm just coping. But what did you think of the event? Please let me know. Do you think that Ilia Topuria smokes all the rest of the lightweights? Do you think that he can beat JDM at welterweight? Do you think he can beat Islam at welterweight? I want to hear this in the comment section below. Like and subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.